Today is June 25th, 2021. My name is Charles Suter. Today I'm presenting Perfectionism, the hidden consequences thereof. My main message: perfect is the enemy of good. Wanting to do one's best work on any project is a noble end, but it should not overconsume oneself. It should be tempered with discretion so as not to be overdone. Before beginning any project, or even a routine task for that matter, one should decide in advance when the job is done to a reasonably satisfactory degree. Otherwise, a project or a task could continue without a clear stopping point. There is a concept in economics called the law of diminishing returns, meaning that after a certain point, the returns from further effort on a project continues to return progressively less and less value, but at a progressively higher and higher cost. A person must know when to quit after their project has reached an acceptable stage of completion. Otherwise, there's a hidden risk of creeping perfectionism, wherein the fear of letting go of a project becomes an ego involvement, a conditioned means for boosting one's self-esteem rather than as a means of earning the original benefits intended from the goal in the first place. A person with a healthy self-esteem is unlikely to get overly emotionally involved in a project and knows when to declare victory and move on to the next goal. Proposition 1. When to consider a goal completed is itself a decision. There's only so much time and only so many projects that can be completed in a person's lifetime. There's a principle called the 80-20 principle that states that 80% of the value of a project is gained with 20% of the effort. Strive to complete more projects at 80% to gain more projects completed and more value accumulated. Perfection lies in the eye of the beholder, so there is no universally defined stopping point for any project. Theoretically, a project's stopping point is arbitrary and debatable. So without upfront precautions, any project could continue long past a rational stopping point. To protect yourself, acknowledge upfront that your time is limited and there are many worthwhile projects waiting for your attention. Don't allow one project to take on ego proportions with psychological aspects separate from the project's original set of objective rewards. Each project only has a fixed value in terms of meeting human wants and needs. So choose wisely how to allocate your time and, for that matter, your life. Focus on your most important goals because your life's satisfaction depends on how many of your aspirations you actually finish at an acceptable level of completeness. Proposition 2. There comes a time when further effort costs more than it's worth. The law of diminishing returns will dilute the value of overdoing it. The last 20% of value gained from a project will cost you nearly 80% of your effort. Know when to quit while you're ahead. Some projects are not complete until a logical stopping point is reached. For instance, you can't stop building a house until it's move-in ready, just as you can't stop mowing a lawn until you've completed mowing the entire yard. However, even with these two examples, it can be overdone. However, many people get caught up in their projects and continue to add little niceties that are above and beyond what is realistically necessary or even value added. For some people, their project becomes a reflection of their ego, and some people who are unwilling to let go of their projects, it becomes an obsession whose real purpose shifts from a simple completion of a goal but to perfectionism, wherein the finished project becomes a mean of proving something to themselves or others, an unnecessary way of fortifying their low concept of self or sense of self-esteem. So don't allow your ego to get involved in your projects. Stay objective and know when enough is enough. Proposition 3. Define your stopping point before you begin a project. Set reasonable goals and know when you have arrived. Goal completion should have measurable metrics. So when you measure success, stop. Let your plan and your ending date be your guide. The better you define your desired future end state for your goals in advance, which represent a logical stopping point, the easier it will be for you to know when to quit so you can move on to the next project. Take the time to define each goal's endpoint before you start so you don't overdo the project, spending more time and effort than the goal is worth. The more time you spend on one project, the less time you will have available to devote to other worthwhile projects. As one project nears completion and its value nears its maximum point, its residual value begins to fall relative to other potential projects whose value becomes comparatively greater in comparison. The time to consider quitting one project and beginning another is when the diminished value of the first project falls below its startup value of the next available project. Now my final message: every goal has a fixed worth, so don't exceed it. A never-ending project will drain your time and your life. Knowing when to start and when to end a project are both equally important, but never forget, satisfying the original purpose of a project is what's most important. So devote more time focused on the ends, which is achieving the benefits inherent in the project, and less time on the means, which is the details, which are much less important. One of the risks of any project is continuing too long because too much time was spent on the details. Commit to completing the project near its original stopping point so as to gain the benefits from its original purpose, and do not allow the project to spin out of control by allowing yourself to become over-emotionally involved, wherein the project takes on other meanings not related to its original purpose. That's all for now. Remember to stay positive. You'll be happier, healthier, and live longer.